Is Sigil dead in the water? Stunning layoffs bring the future of the VTT into question.
Yikes!
Today on Above the Table, we're talking about the stunning fall of Sigil, as over 90% of the team meant to support this VTT was laid off this week. Now, before we dive into the news, be sure to click those like and subscribe buttons so we can keep making these type of videos. Yesterday, Andy Collins, the de facto design lead for Sigil, announced that he was among approximately 30 people laid off by Wizards of the Coast. The layoffs were all focused on the Sigil team, leaving about 3 to 4 employees to manage the fledgling VTT moving forward. I'm disappointed that we didn't get to continue working toward the full experience that we imagined, but happy for the opportunity to work on an intriguing challenge with so many smart and dedicated folks, Collins wrote on LinkedIn. The news is a bit of a stunner as Wizards launched Sigil as into a sort of open beta / official launch last month. However, those paying attention to Sigil could tell that the project had major issues as it really struggled to define itself as anything more than a fancy level builder. Now, Project Sigil was originally announced as part of the One D&D initiative, a way to bring all aspects of Dungeons & Dragons under one roof with a new not edition of the game, further implementation of D&D Beyond, and this fancy new Unreal Engine 5 driven VTT. However, early reviews of Sigil were mixed. Was it a D&D video game equivalent, a level builder, or something else entirely? The answer seemed to consistently be, we'll make whatever fans want it to be, which felt like a coded way of saying, we really have no direction for this project. Now, in my eyes, there were 3 big things that precipitated Sigil's fall. The first was the rise of maps, a D&D Beyond driven VTT that used 2D maps and tokens. Maps is clean, easy to use, and available on web browsers. It's not cumbersome, and you can see how easy it is to preload various maps for official D&D adventures into the system with very little work. It's also integrated into D&D Beyond more directly than Sigil could ever be. It's literally a cheaper, easier version of the thing Sigil was trying to be, and it's something that seems to be embraced by the community as well. The second was the D&D live show at Gen Con, which was supposed to be a spotlight for Sigil. The first half of the show was an absolute boisterous and raunchy blast featuring Baldur's Gate 3 voice actors and members from the D&D community. The second half, which featured Sigil during a combat encounter, was a lifeless slog, filled with technical glitches and a distinct lack of joy. It was an awful advertisement, as it seemed to say, Sigil will take all the fun from your D&D game. Now, the third was a preview I attended at Wizards headquarters earlier this year. The event included an hour-long look at Sigil, which was billed as more of a level builder than a traditional VTT. While the designers showed off how relatively easy it was to build a quick encounter within Sigil, they admitted that most tables wouldn't use the VTT to run every single encounter in a D&D campaign. They also couldn't answer fundamental questions about the VTT, such as monetization or what the design goals for Sigil were. It felt very much like a solution for a problem that hadn't been introduced. At one point, the designer who we were speaking to noted that their plan for Sigil's development was largely dependent on what users actually wanted to see in the system, and expressed hopes that they could use the VTT for systems beyond D&D 5e, with Warhammer 40k actually given as one of the examples of something that they wanted to see. It was really not a great sell for the system. Now, instead of being heralded as the next great tool for Dungeons & Dragons, Sigil launched in February 2025 via a 140-word press release and a muted launch on D&D Beyond. The project was limited to D&D Beyond subscribers, with a paid subscription needed to unlock full services. The strangely terse press release, the muted launch of the system, and the lack of a roadmap for what was to come next all had the makings of a market dump. It basically said that Wizards of the Coast was cutting its losses after spending significant resources trying to build a system with no clear-cut audience or goal in mind. That feels even more likely now, especially as Sigil's support team is now down to a skeleton crew. Now, we'll see what happens to Sigil in the coming months. It's likely that the current version will continue to get some technical support, but don't expect 3 to 4 people to provide any sort of significant updates to this project. Now, are you surprised by Sigil's downfall? Let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.